Hello friends, Xena Zeit-Geist here, and today we will be discussing the fine showgirl art of rhinestoning. That is correct. Today I will show you how to do one of the #1 things I get asked about, and that is making your costumes and props sparkly AF. I think the reason that I get asked about it a lot is, because a lot of my costumes and cosplays are for the stage. And on stage, it is extra important for things to sparkle and have that little bit of glimmer to kind of catch the attention of everybody in the audience, especially people all the way in the back row. Whenever you're doing things for the stage, I'm a big believer in doing things as big as possible so that the people in the cheap seats can still see what you're doing and appreciate it and remember it and be like, wow, that's Xena Zeitgeist. Fine performer. Maybe I'll buy more expensive seats next time. Maybe I'll arrive at the venue on time and sit in the front row so I can truly appreciate the elegance if from all the way back there, cramped in the corner in the back of the venue, they blew me away like that. We're going to be covering a few different things. #1 is types of rhinestones. #2 is glue. These are both very important things. I'm not like the #1 aficionado on this stuff, but I have been doing burlesque for 7 years and I've fully encrusted 2 Darth Vader helmets. I've encrusted several masks. I just have beautiful sparkly dresses and things like that that I have just absolutely decked out in rhinestones, pairs of shoes that I've completely covered. I don't totally recommend doing that because if you walk around in them a lot, even if you use the strongest of glues, you're going to lose some rhinestones here and there. Also, it's not friendly to a lot of stages. It kind of tends to scrape on it and make a terrible sound. So that's worth considering. Also like ruining the stage, but you know, art. Okay, but are you ready to learn about some mother effing rhinestones? Let's go. Okay, so as you can see, I have quite the rhinestone collection. I just have a whole cart of them right here in front of me, all sorts, shapes, colors, sizes. And first thing we're going to talk about is rhinestone quality. So these in here at the top, these little pink ones, are Swarovski rhinestones. These are the Rolls Royce of rhinestones. They're very expensive. It's a name brand. They'll run you a lot of, like hundreds of dollars if you're trying to use Swarovski rhinestones for a whole costume piece. People do it. It's like a Las Vegas showgirl standard. If you're going to be on stage in front of hundreds of people, if not thousands, Dita Von Teese, all Swarovski, obviously, that's what you want to do. However, if you're like, Xena, I don't have billions of dollars. I just wanted to look a little bit fancy for my stage debut. Maybe you don't use Swarovskis, or maybe you buy a little bit of Swarovskis and then you mix them in with some of the other types so that you kind of like get some catching the light, but you're not like blowing a crazy amount of money. See, like these just, they catch the light really well, even in the sort of crappy light that I have right here in my office because the sun is setting. But yeah, Swarovskis are, you can see them. Next here is Preciosa. They are another name brand rhinestone. They're a little bit cheaper than Swarovskis. They are made of glass. Beware though with Swarovskis and Preciosas, there are knockoffs out there. And I mean, just make sure you're getting the real thing. These are very sparkly, very faceted. The facets are like all of the little angles in there that makes them catch the light more. These also have what is called an AB coating on them, which you might be able to tell, like in one light, in one way, they look one color, but then in another angle, another way, they look kind of another color. So it's like the A color and the B color. AB crystals are great. I highly recommend them, especially if you're going to be far away, or if you, I don't know, don't want to use as many of them. I don't know. But if you just want to be sparkly as heck, AB is going to be a lot of bang for your buck because it looks multi-dimensional on the stage, and that's like with Swarovskis, with preciosas, with any tier pretty much of rhinestone. Now these are just some regular glass rhinestones. They're in a cute shape. They're a little bit heavy, which is normal. That's like kind of a sign of quality. They also, if you'll notice, these are technically sew-in rhinestones. So they have these little holes in them so that you can sew them onto things. However, I basically never do that. I usually glue them on, but if you're gluing on some sew-on rhinestones, be mindful that you use a strong enough glue, and then also just be prepared for them to pop off. That just might happen. You might have to replace these. You might want to get extra ones. And these are still really good rhinestones. They're high quality, and the shape is cool. And I've found that it's harder to get Swarovskis and preciosas in interesting shapes, especially at a reasonable price. So you can get some good glass ones out there for a great price. Are acrylic rhinestones. They are the cheapest rhinestones you can get. You can get them in bulk at craft stores. I mean, with any rhinestones you buy, you're gonna want to make sure that they're not cloudy, which I've noticed, especially older acrylic rhinestones can get kind of cloudy. The other thing with acrylics is you'll notice, don't have a lot of these other than in cool shapes and fun colors, because I really only use them for accent pieces, because I find that they just don't catch the light well, and then they don't really do much as far as sparkle goes unless they're just surrounded by other things. They're more of like a cool shape, like accent piece, than they are like a super beautiful, glamorous, sparkly thing. I'm not taking these out of their container because that would be crazy. But these are crystal and crystal AB, just so you can get a sense of like the difference between just basic rhinestones and rhinestones with an AB coating, like what that does. And also, I wanted to bring these out because these are glass. They're not like particular brand, but they're Hi-Fi Gava is where I get them. They're glass Gava rhinestones, and I find them to just be a slightly better, like slightly higher end kind of rhinestone. If you're looking to buy a lot of them, I usually get them from eBay, from the Hi-Fi Gava store, which I can link in the description. Hopefully I remember to do that. But yes, these are the reason that I have this giant thing of them, is that I use them all the time, and they're a little bit cheaper because they're so popular, because people use them so much for encrusting things and making their costumes pretty. They match with like almost everything. There's not a lot of stuff that these would just look terrible on. And like I said, these are like a nicer kind of glass rhinestone, the hi-fi one, that aren't like Preciosa or Swarovski. Really quickly before we move on, we're going to talk about rhinestone sizes, okay? So down here in the bottom, we have the size known as SS20. That is the standard rhinestone size. It's the size that I feel like is easiest to find, and is just like not too big, not too small, great for encrusting things. I recommend it. Up here, this is, I want to say, like an SS34. It's, as you can see, a lot bigger. I wouldn't recommend trying to encrust something with these, just because it covers kind of too much surface area. They're a little bit heavier. Yeah, I don't know. They're really pretty. Better as accent pieces, though. These are, I want to say, maybe an SS30, so a little bit smaller, kind of same deal as the 34s. And then these are tiny. These are an SS12, which they get even smaller. You can get SS8s. I want to say is like the smallest that I've seen. I don't recommend starting out with these at all. I only recommend using these if you're insane and want to do some really crazy detail work. But if you're doing stuff for the stage, these are kind of not going to show up that much anyway. I do recommend accenting with, boop, boop, boop. These are SS16s. They're just a little bit smaller than the 20s. They're great to accent with, really sparkly. If you really want to go the extra mile, you can deck something out in some 16s. Since they are smaller, you will want to use more of them, but they'll kind of catch the light better than just putting like a bunch of giant stones on something. Also, you want to be mindful of what kind of fabric you're using whenever you decide what sizes of rhinestones to use for a project, because you don't want to use a bunch of giant stones and then just weigh something down, especially if it's a really delicate fabric. You also don't want to use like teeny, teeny, tiny stones on something really like kind of bulky or like too flowy, because they just like may not read as well, or you're just going to have to use a lot of them. But yeah, that's about sizes. So whenever you order rhinestones for encrusting a prop or a costume, you are going to want to get flat backs. See, the back is flat. If you just put in rhinestones and they're not flat backs, you might end up with some beautiful crystal beads that you cannot use. In addition to that, these are what is known as hotfix rhinestones, right here. Sorry, it's blurry. The darker gray ones are known as hotfix rhinestones, which you can kind of see. They have basically an adhesive on the back of them, and you can get what's called a hotfix tool, which is just a little annoying stick that you like push down with the rhinestones on. It's like a bedazzler. It gets really hot. It's hard to use. I don't find that they stay on better, and I hate it. But you can also get like the non-hotfix ones and just glue them on. You can also glue on hotfix ones. There's like no reason that you can't. Like they have this glue on the back, but don't let that stop you. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is glue. This is very important. First, we're going to discuss kind of like the classic. There's a lot of options. There's not really super wrong or right answers. Hot glue is a wrong answer, actually. That is just incorrect. Also, super glue, probably not what you want to use. There are a few different standards, and it's going to depend on who you ask. Okay, so first, there is gym tack. Gym tack is one that I personally recommend for doing a big solid surface area of something. There's some pros and cons to it though. Gym tack comes out of the tube. See if you can see in there. It doesn't come out clear. It kind of looks like Elmer's glue initially. But what I do whenever I'm like encrusting a Darth Vader helmet or something like that is I basically like paint this on, and then I let it dry, get a little bit tacky, and then I place like a whole area of rhinestones in one go, and then I do kind of the whole helmet like that. I prefer gym tack for kind of hard surfaces and things where I'm trying to cover a lot of surface area very fast, because the edges of it I find get kind of gummy. Like the glue itself is harder to hide than some of the others, but the good news is it doesn't like corrode plastic or things like that, which some of these others do. Also, I'm pretty sure it's non-toxic. It doesn't have any fumes from it. It's basically like if you've used Elmer's glue, it has a very similar vibe to that, but it's for fabrics and attaching rhinestones to them. Next thing we're going to talk about is E6000. This is in a weird packaging. I don't know why. Normally the logo looks more like this, but we're going to get to that one. But this is just a giant tube of E6000. It is maybe like $5, $6 at Michael's or whatever local craft store you might be visiting. E6000 is incredible for sticking things together. It is also incredible for causing brain cancer, unfortunately. So you will want to be using it in a well-ventilated area, or wearing a mask or something. So E6000 comes out clear. This like might be glued to itself right now. This is like an old one. Oh my god, it's like the lid is glued on. So it comes out pretty clear. E6000 is also great because they have this one that is specifically the bead and jewelry one. It looks like this. It is slightly more expensive. It comes with all of these little nozzles that are better. Like this is just gonna blob all over your project. This is like not great for delicate things. If you're gonna do something delicate or like stone a whole garment, you probably are gonna want the jewelry and bead version that has these cute little nozzles. It comes with 3 in a pack, and the reason for that is after you use one, or 4 in a pack, I'm sorry. After you use one, it's pretty much unusable after the glue has dried in it. It's just gonna like get really gunked up, and you're gonna have to move on to another one after you've ruined the first one. But it also comes with this little thingy lid, this lid that you can put back on it so that you don't dry out your whole tube of glue or just destroy it first thing. E6000, the toxic one, is great because things hold to it phenomenally well. Once you put something on with E6000, you're gonna have a hard time getting it off. The things that I dislike about it are sometimes around the edges you'll get some little stringies, and kind of like how that happens when you use hot glue, it sort of happens in a similar way with this, and depending on what kind of fabric you're using, it'll stain the fabric a little bit. With gem tack also, you're going to be mindful of what fabric you're using whenever you're stoning, because a couple things, it can look a little bit yellow on white fabrics. It doesn't usually happen, it's not normally a problem, but especially if you like, for some reason, leave your costume in your car or in the sun, then it can get a little bit of discoloration on the glue parts, which is not great if you just spent a bunch of time making this thing look sparkly and just gorgeous. You don't want to ruin it with yellowing. Also, with either of these, and just kind of with any glue, it can like seep into the fabric a little bit, especially if you like, I don't know, have like a little blob of glue on your hand and you don't realize and you brush the fabric with it, then in some cases that'll cause discoloration. It happens a lot with like stretchy fabrics that you would make like a garter belt or something like that out of, like some kinds of spandex get discolored by glue pretty easily, but I just solve that by putting more rhinestones over it. E6000 Fabrifuse. This one will not mess you up. This one is non-toxic. You can breathe it in without feeling like you're gonna die. Low odor. It's made for fabric, so whenever you put it on the costume, it like will stretch with it to an extent. I feel like still it's not as strong a hold as the toxic one, which kind of makes sense, but it is still kind of my go-to. This is my number one. Very user-friendly. You just put a bunch of glue dots on your thing, you wait for a little bit, it gets a little bit tacky, and then it's pretty much on there. You're pretty much good. It's supposed to be good for extreme stretch. I've found that whenever I put it on like mesh fabrics that I've used for like, say, underwear, where it has to go like over my butt, and just like stretch in some areas more than others, it can be a problem. It can like pop those rhinestones right off of there very quickly, but I don't know, it's still my go-to. It's still the one that I use the most. Maybe now you're like, Xena, how do I pick up these tiny rhinestones to place on my costume? Do I use my fingers? No. Ideally, no. I mean, you can, and I do sometimes. I don't know, it feels faster sometimes. Sometimes you get into a good rhythm and just, you know, do whatever you do. But you can get these which are tools for bedazzling. It's really just like a little pen type thing with wax on this side, and then this is just like a metal part that I use to like kind of poke things around. And they come in a bunch of different colors. You can get these on Amazon or eBay or anywhere like that. There's a very fancy one called the Crystal Katana, but these are like the cheap knockoff ones that I haven't tried the Crystal Katana, but I would love to. Please buy me one, someone. You can also, if you don't feel like dealing with that, just use a wax pencil, which you can get those for like $1. Or this is just dental wax. You can just take a little bit of dental wax, ball it up, put it on the end of a pencil, on a chopstick, on whatever, and you have a perfect bedazzling tool. And you can get this for also like $1. Okay, so now I'm just gonna demonstrate some very basic rhinestoning for you. I'm just rhinestoning this hair flower here. It's just a synthetic flower that goes in your hair. Very, very easy. And I'm using the E6000 Fabrifuse, my favorite one. The completed thing after it has dried overnight and it's all done. Yay! And now for some pasties. An E6000 pasty. She's sparkly. She's got some different types of rhinestones on there. We got some ABs, we got some glass gavas, we got these little glass ones on the end, and then there's, I believe, some preciosas in there. Ooh. And those are the basics of Rhinestone 101. I hope that you create something beautiful and sparkly, like a bedazzled angle grinder, maybe, if you are a Home Depot type. Or if you're a nerd, a fully rhinestone encrusted Darth Vader helmet. I own 2 of these that I fully bedazzled. It took me 3 months. So If anybody wants to sponsor me, Swarovski, if you're looking out, I would love to redo this in Swarovski rhinestones, because the ones that I used on here are just a mix of different dark glass stones. There's some jet ABs, which we didn't talk about. Those ones will say really fast. So when you put the AB coating on a jet rhinestone, which is a black rhinestone, it turns it a color, which sometimes it's like kind of blue or purple or a little bit green. You can't really just have it be like a black AB, because there isn't like another shade of black. It just wouldn't work that way. Or jet rhinestones on their own are not very sparkly. So if you just like have a really beautiful black garment that you want to deck out in black rhinestones, you can absolutely do that. Just don't feel like crushed whenever it doesn't show up that well on stage. I find that jet rhinestones are best used kind of as accent pieces, and like along with other things, because it's not like they're totally useless, but they definitely just don't show up as well as literally any other color. So that's why I didn't do this in all jet, because I just didn't know if it would do much. Okay, friends, that's all the information I have for you today. I'm Xena Zeitgeist. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a little thumbs up down below and subscribe to my channel. If you hated it, that is absolutely okay too. If you have a lot of thoughts about rhinestones, then you can tell me those in the comments. You can also just tell me some love. Tell me what you're planning on bedazzling. Tell me, are you a showgirl? Have you stepped on stage before? Are you planning to in the future? Are you a drag queen? Are you a cosplayer? I want to know about you. What are you doing? What do you like? What are your hobbies? What are your activities? Also, if you have other ideas for things that you would like me to talk about in future videos, I am all ears. Thank you so much and have an incredible day. I love you. If this video was helpful to you and you want to help me make more helpful videos, then consider becoming my patron on Patreon. That's patreon.com/XenaZeitgeist.